Good day.
Good day.
I have to tell you that Judd and I are absolutely delighted to be with you. It's great to be with John and Diane. It's great to be with Stuart and Adrian. We had the pleasure a couple of years ago of spending some really wonderful quality time in New Zealand in their home, and got to learn how good whitebait is. And I'm ready for some more, Stuart. When we arrived yesterday, it was almost freaky in some ways to realize that so many people that we met initially were at the district conference in Goulburn. And so all of my old jokes I can't use. I did bring with me in 2000 one of my favorite classic books that John Lawrence always reminds me of. It's one of the great classics in the world, Don't Squat with Your Spurs On. Now, as I told them, I see some of you have it in your collection as well. I have a couple of really favorite quotes from that book. I'll use one today and I'll use one tomorrow. The one today is, since this is a success conference, is if you get to thinking, if you're riding ahead of the herd, look back every now and then, make sure it's still there. And certainly those of us in leadership positions need to understand that one. You know, back in April, I received an email from Governor Noel asking me if I would come to Canberra and speak at this Rotary Success Conference. And I was thinking at the time that, since I've had a few things to do with Rotary conventions over the last couple of years, that historically the convention committee has met in August. But in talking to my committee, it was evident very early on that that was not going to work this year, and that we had to schedule our meeting in July. So I thought to myself, you know, I'd really like to go to Canberra because we love Australia and we love New Zealand. But I'm a little bit leery of asking permission to come to Australia every month because it's a long way here and the tickets are pretty expensive, and you know the rest of the story. And I've already realized that I've been to Sydney already once this year in March. I'm here again because our committee meeting is this coming week. I'll be back in Invercargill in October, and then we're going to come to Sydney for the foundation banquet that following Monday, and then we're going to be in Adelaide. So, you know, just between Los Angeles and Sydney, which is 14 or 15 hours, and 14 or 15 hours back, so that's 30 hours times 4, just sitting on an airplane. Very unproductive time for the most part. I think most of you are very well aware of that. But anyway, when we realized the committee meeting was going to occur in July, I saw Noel in Chicago at the RC-RPIC-RRFC joint meeting in March. You know, I could actually have a total conversation with you and never say a real word. So, kind of like what Stuart was talking about a minute ago in terms of complications. Reminds me of the United States Army. I'm sure the Australian and New Zealand armies don't speak in acronyms like that, but I remember when I was in the United States Army, you could do the same thing. Kind of freaky and scary, I think. Anyway, I told him that if he was still interested in me coming to the Success Conference, that I would be delighted to come and would certainly like to do that. And he said he would like to have me be here. So as I thought about it, I said to myself, I wonder what I've gotten myself into, because, you know, quite frankly, I don't know what a Success Conference is. That's a new term to me. Is that an SC? Are we going to have to put that in the materials? Well, anyway, we ended up making the commitment, and he explained to me what the Success Conference is all about. Because all of you are here, are Rotary leaders, or you will soon be, you care enough about Rotary to hold an office. You probably also care enough by your very presence here to want to do a good job. you probably want to succeed. And obviously, I want you to succeed. But you know, succeeding in Rotary isn't like succeeding at work or in politics. It doesn't mean having your name in the biggest lights, or having the most money, or the most business, or anything like that. No. Success in Rotary means something very, very simple. It means changing lives for the better, doing as much good as you can for as many people as you can. That's all. It isn't complicated, but it is pretty incredible. I think it's an amazing goal. And it's even more amazing to realize that it's realistic, because it's something Rotarians do every day. And the more we do it, the better we are at it, and the more successful we are. As Rotary leaders, you're going to have a lot of responsibility for that. And it's an awesome responsibility when you think about it. But that's why we're here today, to talk about success in Rotary, how you get to be successful in Rotary, and what that means. And I think it's a fantastic idea to have this success conference, to focus on these questions, and also on the many, many things that Rotary is doing right. Because it happens a lot, maybe too often, that when people want to do something better, they focus on the things that aren't going well. That does make sense up to a point. It's important. But doesn't it make even more sense? Isn't it even more important to look at the things that are going well and look at how to do them even better? The way to get the most done in Rotary, the way to be the most successful in Rotary, isn't to try to always do Rotary differently. It's to keep on doing what Rotary does well and do it even better. It means building on the good things that have been done already and coming up with ideas that other Rotarians will want to build on down the line. And success in Rotary leadership means recognizing from the start that the only way to have a strong organization is to have a strong membership, with clubs full of people who love Rotary, who are engaged in Rotary, and who are committed to Rotary service. I was district governor in 1987-88, and I've seen a lot of issues come and go in Rotary. But there's one issue that's been around from the very beginning, and it's one that won't ever stop being a focus. And you can guess that that issue is membership. I was thinking about this at this year's convention in Bangkok, when now President Tanaka was talking about his early days in Rotary. He said in the plenary sessions that after 2 years in the Rotary Club of Yashio, Japan, he wanted to quit. It kind of took me aback, because it wasn't something I expected to hear from the podium on that stage in front of some 35,000 people. But he was very honest about it. He had other things to do. He didn't enjoy the meetings. He didn't think he was getting anything out of it. And he was ready to move on. Sounds like a familiar story, doesn't it? Because you know, in Rotary, we get about 120,000 new members every year coming in the front door. And we get about 120,000 or more every year going out the back door. And President Sakuji was almost one of those. But his club's charter president talked him out of it. And soon after that, he found something in Rotary that caught his imagination. He found something that really engaged him as a Rotarian. And the rest, as they say, is history. As I was sitting in that audience, listening to his story, I had to chuckle to myself a little bit because I'm not embarrassed to say to you that just about the same thing happened to me. The only difference is that I just didn't think about terminating my membership. I actually did it. I missed 4 consecutive meetings, some of these rules that Stuart's talking about. And by the rules in place at that time, which have now been changed, I had terminated my membership for lack of attendance. Anybody ever hear of that one? It was 1980. I was a young, handsome man. Oh, no, that's right. I had a young family. That's what I'm supposed to say. And I was a busy guy, really wrapped up in my career. And I thought I had really some great excuses for not going to Rotary. I actually had 4 of them. Number 1 was I was a busy guy and had other things to do at noon on Thursday. And it was a long way in those days in my district to a makeup club. It would take you at least 2 to 3 hours to go to another community and have a makeup. Number 2 was the food at the Holiday Inn was horrible. I was so bad I wouldn't even feed it to your dog. Number 3 was the programs were pathetic. I didn't need to know this stuff. There was really nothing there for me to go waste my time to listen to. And number 4 was, which I thought was a real clincher, there was really nothing for me to do. I went to eat, meet, greet, or greet, meet, eat, and belch, however you want to phrase it. There was just nothing there for me. And I thought, if I'm going to waste my time, I can waste it better ways. I had myself so convinced that I just quit going to meetings. All right, you say, well, why are you here today and why are you standing here as the president-elect talking to us? Well, I'm here because a past district governor in my district called me on the phone and said to me, Ron, I thought you wanted to be a Rotarian. I thought you wanted to be in our club. And I said, Gene, I thought I did too, you know, but and I went through my 4 reasons. I'm a busy guy. The food's lousy. The programs stink. And I don't have any reason to come. And he said, well, then would you do me a favor? Would you come to the meeting next week and let's talk about it? And I said to him, Gene, out of respect for you, I will come. So I went, and the incoming club president and the past district governor and I sat down after the meeting and started talking. And the incoming club president asked me why I wasn't coming and so on. And I gave him my 4 reasons. And they honed in on that very quickly. The president then gave me a reason. He said, well, I know you're the president of the University of Oklahoma Foundation, and I'd like to ask you if next year you would consider being the club chair of the Rotary Foundation Committee and putting some of your expertise to work for Rotary. Well, I said, yeah, I think that might be interesting. I think I can do that. But I was also very cognizant of the rules, and I said, well, you know, but what do we do about the fact that I'm really no longer a member of this club? And the club president looked at the past district governor, and they applied a little bit of common sense, which is something sometimes I think we lack in great quantities. And they said, well, why don't you just not worry about that and just come back next week? It's been 32 years now, and here I am. Believe it or not, and I could care less about this, I think I have 31 years of perfect attendance. I've missed 1 meeting since then that I didn't get a makeup. And I wouldn't wear that pin. I don't care what you paid me. I could care less. It's totally irrelevant. I go to Rotary because I care. Because I believe in what we're trying to do. I believe in the individual member because that's where it starts and that's where it ends. You see, I really didn't want to terminate my membership. What I was looking for was a way to get involved. And I think that's where we are, folks. And I think that's your job as Rotary leaders, to make sure that your Rotarians have a reason to be in your club. My club's 150 members, and probably sometimes it's a little hard to give everybody a meaningful job, but we seem to be able to do it. We've been at that for quite a while now. We've got 2 other clubs in town. When I was president of that club, believe it or not, in 83, 84, so I went from terminated member to the president of the club pretty quickly. We had 140 members, and we chartered our breakfast club in town, so everybody that couldn't go to lunch on Thursday had an opportunity to go to breakfast on Tuesday. We chartered that club with 45 members in 1987. It has 110 members now, and it's the 2nd largest club in our district. And 10 years later, we chartered our evening club, which Jed is a charter member of and the centennial president of. And that club has about 30 members, and we need to charter another club because a lot of people can't go to breakfast on Tuesday or to dinner on Tuesday or to lunch on Thursday. And we're a community of 110,000 in a greater metropolitan area of about 1.8 million people. Now there's a lot of other clubs in the area, but in our own community, I think we could certainly continue to grow Rotary. You know, the wonderful thing about Rotary is that while it can't be everything to everybody, there is so much going on in Rotary that I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a Rotary member who can't find something in Rotary they can really get behind. For me, obviously, it was the foundation, and I give the Rotary Foundation full credit. And I'll talk about the Rotary Foundation tomorrow and how that brought me into my dedicated position. At least I think it's a dedicated position to Rotary. But for others, it might be our water projects or literacy or youth exchange. I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan last week with the Central States Youth Exchange Group. There were some 600 youth exchange students there. And I'm telling you, if there's a more dedicated group of Rotarians in the world than those people who run our youth exchange programs, I'd sure like to meet them, because that's a tough job. You know, I've met so many people who've made their life's work, for example, in avoidable blindness, and they have the love, the feeling that they get every day knowing that there are hundreds of people walking this earth right now who can see, who are not blind because of them. We talk a lot about changing lives in Rotary because that's what Rotary service really means. And service is our bread and butter. It's what we do. But I can tell you that of all the lives that I perhaps have had the opportunity to touch and maybe even change, the one that I've had the most positive impact on is my very own. And I would venture to say it's the same thing for you. Jen and I have so many friends around the world that we would never have met if it had not been for Rotary. There isn't anywhere we can't go. You can take a map of the world and stick a pin in it, and, you know, except for a couple of countries and all the water that's there, we would know somebody in that country and they would know us. We talk about it almost constantly. We cannot imagine what our lives would be like today had I not accepted that position as chair of my Club Rotary Foundation Committee. I would probably be sitting this I don't know what time it is at home, but whatever time it is, I'd be sitting in my house pining away as a retired old man doing absolutely nothing. And I like to think that I'm really truly making a difference in the world. I'd call that a Rotary success. So as we get started or get inspired with all of the incredible work that we can do and all of the amazing things our fellow Rotarians are doing around the world, let's just remind ourselves that every wow moment at this success conference that we're going to hear this weekend was brought to you by Rotarians. And obviously, the more Rotarians we have, the more potential we have for that kind of success in the future. I know that all of you have goals for the year ahead, and I certainly hope that they're good, and I'm going to be listening in on the sessions this weekend. You have solid lists of goals that are realistic, ambitious, and inspiring for you. But if I can take the liberty, I'd like to add one more goal to that list today. for this Rotary year and maybe even for the years that follow, because when we talk about membership in Rotary, we talk about how grateful we are to the person who invited us to a meeting and proposed us for membership. We talk about how important it is for each of us to bring in a new member ourselves. And we do have an obligation to replace ourselves as often as we can. And that's important for every one of us. But equally as important as bringing in a new member is reaching out to a struggling member, to the Rotarian who's wondering why they're there and whether they're needed, to a Sakuji Tanaka, to a Ron Burton. And I'm asking you to do for them what someone did for me and what someone did for Sakuji Tanaka all those years ago. Be the person who changes their life. Shut that back door. Talk to them. Find out why they came into Rotary and find out what's missing. See if you can find what will engage them, what will inspire them, and what will excite them about Rotary. And help them get involved in Rotary service so that their lives will be changed by Rotary, just as mine has and just as every one of yours has. Because when you boil it all down, Rotary's successes begin with you. Thank you.